All righty. Welcome back. This is Lana Reid. I am here again with another one of my quick male perspective conversations. Today I'm hanging out with Eric McRay of McRay Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina, right?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. Now, I was on your website and reading around and being nosy. You're originally from Washington, D.C., correct?
Yeah, Washington, D.C. is my hometown.
Okay.
And came to North Carolina in 1987.
Okay. So how old were you when you came to North Carolina?
Why do you ask questions like that?
Because it's the setup for my next it's the setup for my next question.
I was 23. I was I guess around about 23 at the time.
Okay, so 23. So
yes.
My question to you is, coming to North Carolina, the South, from Washington D.C. at the age of 23, did you find a vast difference in like the dating pool or social life, or is it a very different climate?
Well, I came to get
He's put me on the spot right away.
You're making me blush right off the bat. What happened was my girlfriend at the time, we had been dating for a while, long distance, and she was in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay.
And we both grew up in Washington, D.C. So I was in art school in Baltimore, and she was in Durham. So after I finished school and I finished college, I moved to North Carolina, to Durham, North Carolina, and that's where I proposed to her and we married.
Awesome. Still?
So she was 19 and I was 23.
Okay.
And we're still married. We've been married December will be 29 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to hear that. So
thank you.
You are in the, like you said, you were in the arts field. You were studying art. Now, a lot of times, a lot of the complaints that women and men have is that we just think differently. We process information differently. But also what I've heard is that men in the creative field, music or arts or whatever, that creative side to you gives you the ability to kind of relate to a woman a little bit better. Have you found that to be true?
I would agree wholeheartedly. I think being an artist, a lot of females can find an artist appealing just in general. And I think that because I do paint people and I paint the figure, I've grown to learn a lot about women and how they tend to think and how they process, and learn the language that ladies use, like in the book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. Yeah. So I learned to, I guess, translate and understand what a woman means when she says certain things that a guy would take one way, and of course a lady would mean a different thing. Okay. But so it's just different.
Okay. Just different. Okay.
Just different.
Just different. And different. How so? Would you say?
For me, I would say that for one understanding is that women's speech and how they tend to communicate men might be a little bit more intuitive and a little bit more abstract, or men tend to be more literal. Okay. Like I have a little girl and she'll say, "Daddy, it's cold in here." And I say, "Well, what do you mean by that?" Which obviously she means turn the heat up, turn the heat up or change the environmental situation. But she didn't say, "Hey, Daddy, turn the temperature up to 76 degrees." She'll say, or change the temperature to this or that.
She wants you to get what she's implying.
Exactly. I'm hungry. Okay, what does that mean? I'm hungry.
I need you to run down to McDonald's right now and get me so and so.
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, make it happen. Make the princess happy. So that's one of the things that I've learned. And a lot of times men miss those cues. Okay. And then they don't understand why things don't work out just so well.
Okay.
And vice versa. Women may not understand when a man says certain things that he didn't mean it as I guess as harsh as they may perceive it sometimes.
Understood. Now, once again, you said you and your wife are about to celebrate 20-something years of marriage, right?
29 in December.
29 in December. Now, looking at these 29 years, reflecting on these 29 years, what is something about marriage that you wish somebody had told you going into it?
Wow. I'm used to people asking me about art and, what kind of use.
No, this is the male perspective. We're going to talk about how you think.
I think if someone had, I think the thing that someone never told me that I would say to any young person is that men tend to think nothing will ever change, and women tend to want to believe that they can change everything.
Okay.
And, for example, a lady may meet a guy and he's got certain problems or major problems or something very minor, like, he chews with his mouth open, whatever. And she says, well, I'm going to change Jimmy.
Yes.
After we get married, I'm going to make Jimmy's going to change. So she feels like she can fix Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 years later, Jimmy's still chewing with his mouth open and talk with his mouth full of food, and she's frustrated with Jimmy because that's who he was when she married him. On the other end, men may meet a lady and she's a certain size, certain weight, looks a certain way, behaves a certain way, and he thinks that woman's going to be the same woman 20, 30 years later. That's not the case. She's going to evolve. She's going to change. Age, children, life, whatever her views may change, her perspective, how she wants to present herself may change. And men tend to not want to deal with that change. They want to sometimes lock a woman into a specific kind of image, or because men by nature are visual.
Yes.
So they say, okay, well, she's going to always be this. And then the woman, on the other hand being more emotional, may say, oh, well, he'll always feel this way.
Gotcha.
And he does not. So that's where the beauty of marriage is, the commitment. So then you become committed to your commitment, and understanding the love and the relationship you built with this person is to that person, even though they may change or evolve.
Okay, awesome. Now, going back to your marriage and the 29 years, you said your wife was 19 when you guys hooked up, and you were 23. And I'm assuming, this fresh student out of art school, you weren't financially stable, so to speak. So I'm wondering, as a man, how important is it to have a sidekick, a partner who understands and is committed to stand there with you in your struggle as you build your career and get your life together?
Well, in our case, when I came out of art school, I had the good fortune to get a really good job.
Okay.
In graphics, and I'd saved up a pretty penny. I tend to be a little bit more right brain, left brain. Okay. So I was stashing all my money away in preparation to get married.
Okay.
And so after she was still in college. So she was a sophomore in college. So when we married, she then, we moved in together, and then she continued with college.
Okay.
So I continued to work, and I worked in my career in design and graphics and so forth. But then when she went out into the workforce, we've always collaborated and put out resources together and built together. It's never been like my stuff, her stuff. It's our stuff.
Okay.
We just try to build a family together.
For those out there who have no working knowledge of marriage and what makes it successful, what do you guys do on those days where you're looking at her, she's looking at you, and you're like, what, I really don't like you today. Like, I need you. I need you.
She never has that problem with me.
Oh, she never has that problem.
Yeah, no, not with me. I mean, now with her, she kind of drops the ball from time to time. But me, I'm spot on every day.
Okay. So if I asked her that, she would say that, right?
Well, I don't think she'd want to be on your program, so you won't. She's shy.
Okay.
But under those circumstances, as you were saying, how do you deal with that from day to day?
Yes. Every day is not a good day.
Oh no. I mean, even when you're in a room by yourself and you have no one, you can be angry with yourself. Then why in the world did I say that? Or
yes.
You big dummy. People beat themselves up. Mm-hmm. But I think the beauty of a relationship can be that you have that commitment to one another and a love for one another. And a lot of times people are trying to fix other people and change other people. I think the primary thing is to work on yourself.
Okay.
Times where I don't necessarily may not like something my spouse is doing, but then I have to really put things into perspective and say, what do I actually have a true attitude of gratitude?
Okay.
And can I understand this is who this person is, and then appreciate them for who they are? I mean, we all can improve.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, is that, am I loving enough? Am I caring enough? Am I sensitive to her needs? Where have I fallen short? And I find that when I work harder on myself, the marriage works a lot better than having a big I and a little, let's say a big I and a little you.
Yeah. Okay.
I think when I look in the mirror and say, well, Eric, were you sensitive to this situation? Were you truly listening?
Okay.
And then so when I put 80% of that energy into myself, and then maybe 20% into her, and letting her communicate and let her know what my interests are, my concerns, it's a lot easier to deal with.
Okay.
So that would be my answer, is not to be so critical. I meet a lot of young couples and they're like, you just don't know how she is, or you don't understand. I didn't know he was that way, but when you look at it, there's never one true villain. I mean,
it does take two of us, right?
It takes two to tango, So it's the thing is that did you do what you were supposed to do in that scenario? How did you react to circumstances? Sometimes it's best to keep your mouth closed. What's the scripture say? A soft answer turn away wrath.
That's right.
I mean, it's easy to get to fussing and cussing sometimes. And
you got to pick your battles. You got to pick your battles.
Yeah, I mean, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
You want some avocados? I mean, and one person could, I don't want these so and so avocados. Next time, it's a way you can respond.
Yes.
That it can. What's that? What's the saying? About vinegar. You draw more flies with honey than vinegar.
Honey, that's right. That's what honey than vinegar.
Yeah. So sometimes sweet words and kind words can generate a lot more benefit in a relationship than being harsh and critical and demeaning.
I'm gonna keep on saying this because I really, really like the fact that you have been with your wife for 29 years. I think that's just a wonderful thing. Now, today's world that we're living in, that's kind of unique to see. So I'm wondering, when you and your wife run across these younger couples today, or even couples in your age bracket who just, oh, forget it, I just can't stand him or her, this is it, I am done. I am done. I mean, you guys have to look at those people like, really, that's it? You're going to pack it up and leave because of that,
Yeah, well, I mean, I joke, and I say times when my wife probably wanted to feed me rat poison, and I wanted to bring it in the backyard. I mean, because life has its ups and downs. Yesterday was Father's Day, and she gave me this card that said, talked about the future and things we've been through and what comes down the pike. We'll be able to deal with it together. And I can think of some things that just kind of broke my heart that happened in a relationship. And I'm certain things, at times I've broken her heart, and I didn't react in a way that she thought was kind of the character that she thought I was.
Okay.
And in any relationship, you make many, many mistakes. People make mistakes with their parents, with their children, and just in life. But the bottom line is that what can you endure?
Okay.
And what can you overlook? And can you forgive? Can you keep a root of bitterness out of your heart? Okay. Sometimes people allow things to offend them, and then they let it fester, and it kind of grows in their spirit, and it ultimately leads to a destruction to any kind of relationship, even with your quote unquote best friend. Somebody said, I've known this person since high school, but and you let things get out of control, and all of a sudden that's no longer your best friend. Mm-hmm. So in a relationship, when we meet younger couples, the question is that, what are you striving for? My wife and I both came from households that suffer through divorce and so forth, and we always had an attitude that that's something we never wanted to embrace, just kind of to go through that. And I've had associates who unfortunately after, you talk to them, say, do you really want to do this? Is this the best thing? And many of them, after so many years, say, I sure wish I had stayed with my spouse.
Okay.
I regret doing that. The children are going through this.
Okay.
And it's always these sad stories. And I personally just didn't want to. I personally don't want to suffer through that. So I found ways to make things work.
Okay.
Work at it. It's work. Every day is a commitment to improve the quality of your life. To choose to do the right things in that relationship. To not take things for granted. It's too easy to take people for granted.
Okay.
And people so often will remember. How do I've heard people say this. I will never forget what you did to me. Lana, I'll never forget what you did to me.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people say, Lana, I will never forget what you've done for me?
True. Good point. Okay.
Now, 9 times out of 10, you're the star of my story, and on the 10th time, you're hell on wheels. And I said, all I can remember is that one incident.
That one time, yeah.
Yeah, but I can't remember the time you came to get me when I broke down on the side of the road. I can't remember when you loaned me money, or you prayed for me, or you helped my children. Oh, I can remember that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And much too often, people tend to want to, because we're so self-engrossed, to remember what their offenses more than their blessings.
Okay, cool. Good points. I like that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about fatherhood. You, I think I read right on your website, you have a son and a daughter, or I was being nosy for pictures. Okay. I
have a little girl. She's almost 12, and a boy who's almost 10.
Okay. Now, 12 and 10. What has given you the most challenges about being a father? Besides Miss Lady saying Dad is cold.
I was out of town on a business trip. Went to this art event, and I was constantly missing my children. And I told somebody, I said, I don't get enough kisses. I start to wither away. I need so many kisses per day from my children, otherwise I wither away. But like, they're little people you helping to mold and direct, and they lack certain disciplines, and because you're in that role that God has given you to lead them, it's once again, like that marriage. It's something you work at every day, and you can't necessarily shirk your duty, shirk your responsibilities, because they need you.
Yeah. They
depend on you, and I acknowledge that, and I tell my children every day. I tell them, I'm so thankful to have you, and you're a blessing to me, and I cherish you, and I tell my son, I call him handsome, and I call my daughter beautiful.
I like
and it. I call him a little prince and a little princess. I build them up, but at the same time, I'll correct them, and I'll let them know, don't let me have to jack you up and step out of line.
Mm-hmm.
Because, part of my responsibility is that I'm not your buddy, I'm not your friend in the sense like your little classmates. I have an authority, and I'm going to make sure that you fulfill your responsibilities, and I'm going to direct you where you need to go.
Do you find yourself parenting differently than like your parent or your parents' generation did parent?
Wow. Yes, ma'am. But at the same time,
he said, "Wow."
Yes, ma'am. And not to be critical of how we were raised. I'm very thankful for. I recently lost my mother past January, and many times my mother was very sickly, and we were at the hospital we were at a doctor's appointment. I took her to many doctor's appointments, and she apologized for taking so much of my time. And I said to her, I said, "Mom, how many hours were you in labor with me?" And she just mouth dropped open. Because after my wife watching both of my children being born, I had a totally different perspective of who my mother was. Because all of a sudden I realized, the stork didn't bring me here. I didn't pop up in a cabbage patch, And my mother always tell these stories, but it never really had the magnitude that I saw my wife have our children. So how my mother raised me was pretty old school, is I didn't necessarily have to answer. She didn't necessarily feel like she had to answer questions. It was like strike first and ask questions later, or explain if you ever got an explanation. But But also, I didn't turn out to be a bad person. Like this old cliche, it kept me out of jail,
Yes.
and it kept me out of bad circles.
Okay.
And my mother was my biggest fan and my greatest cheerleader. So I have nothing critical to say in that sense. But in contrast, like I told my mother, your generation was do as I say, not necessarily do what I do. And I said that didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Children nowadays are too savvy. They're exposed to too much, so they always watch your example.
They're like, wait a minute, Dad, let me go Google this. No, that's not right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're doing X, Y, and Z, they feel they can do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, okay, I have to. I can't be. I'm not perfect, but I have to try to do my best. And I'll tell my children often. I'll apologize to my children when I make mistakes, and then I'll let them know we didn't get apologies.
Okay.
It was like our parents could have threw us out of a window, out of a moving car, and they said, "Well, you should
did it."
Yeah, you should have landed on your feet, that kind of thing, right? But if I make a mistake, I tell my children, I apologize, and I say, you just don't know how precious the gift I just gave you.
Thank you.
That I don't think I ever received in my whole life growing up. I think I was a grown man before my mother ever apologized to me.
Thank you.
And she might have said it with a teeth gritted, like, I apologize.
No, right.
So I think that's where my parenting is different. But I think definitely the importance of discipline and accountability and respect for authority and respect for your elders and all those things I definitely try to instill in my children.
Okay. Now, before the 12-year-old princess and the 10-year-old prince came into life, Mr. and Mrs. McRay just had, life to themselves, footloose and fancy free.
Mm-hmm.
They could do whatever, whenever they wanted to. So how do you
go to sushi bar a couple of times a week?
Yeah. So how do you make adjustments in incorporating the two of you, husband and wife, still feeling like husband and wife, but we also are parents? How do you balance that all out?
Boy, I should get paid overtime for this interview.
This is the last question, and I'm gonna let you go.
Like sweat equity.
This is the last question. I'm gonna let you go after this.
No, I mean you can ask something, but I think it's for us. It's still a learning process. I mean, we have young children, and I have friends who are older than me. I have friends younger than me who have older children.
Okay.
Because we waited later to have children. I was 40 when we had our first child.
Okay.
So, I mean, my wife and I used to go grocery shopping at 2:00 in the morning.
Yes, I remember that.
I mean, we lived like that. I mean, we barely cooked. We worked all the time, and other than going to church and involved in our careers and art and our lifestyle, we didn't. We weren't nailed down anywhere. Too much. But I find that I seek the counsel of people wiser than me because I don't have all the answers.
Okay. So
I may go to my friends who have children older than me, and they're not perfect. And the kids aren't perfect, but I go like, well, what do I do in this circumstance? And what do I do in this? I'm not talking about the people whose lives, their kids are hellions, and the marriage is in total turmoil. I'm talking about people in my life that I feel are exemplary. And not perfect, but people who are wise. And I want to know. I say, how do I deal with this situation? My son or daughter at this point in life, what do you suggest I do?
Okay.
And these are people who can then give me wise counsel and keep me in prayer. Who I give authority to, like, go to my children if you feel they're out of line, and speak a word of wisdom into their lives.
Okay.
So my wife and I are always working to try to keep that fire kindled or whatever. And it's not. Once again, I mean, anything worth having is not easy. Okay. And so I'm learning as I go, and I don't have all those answers. Once again, it's back to that reflection. I go, oops, I messed up here. How do I fix this situation?
I think that is the big part of the resolution, though, is to say that I messed up, I fixed. Because a lot of us, we don't want to say that, like, I messed up, and that makes the ball so much more bigger, but to say that, hey, look.
a lot of young couples I meet are quick to go like, it's her fault.
Yes.
It's his fault.
Yes.
And I'll say, hey, so you're telling me, like a buddy of mine, I pulled him to the side and I said, dude, you don't realize you're two steps from really ticking your wife off. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, you're a great guy, you're an awesome guy. I said, but she's sending you all the signals of what you need to do, and you're just not catching it. Mm-hmm. So my job is to tell you, tighten up.
Yeah.
And I had a friend of mine who's much older, and he came to me one time. He said, Eric, you're going to mess up big time. And he'd been on like his second or third marriage. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, this is where you get ready to mess up. You need to change how you're doing things. I'm like, gotcha, thanks.
Gotcha.
So I guess that sense of community and relationship and mentorship, because anybody who thinks they have all the answers are probably somebody who's very, very lonely, very delusional.
Awesome. Yeah,
one of the two.
We need some mentors, and like I said, nobody gives you a class on how to be married, how to be, So you need to surround yourself with some mentors to say, look, it's a little rough patch right here. How do I transition through this rough patch? And I think what I have found in today's generation, I think that's missing. Back when my grandmother or my mother was coming up, there was somebody she could go to and talk to and walk her through this. But that's it. So we are at 30 minutes, but before we go, I want to make sure that I get some shameless plugs out here for Eric. Now,
I like that.
There you go. So for those gentlemen in the Raleigh area that want to possibly get in touch with their creative side and, get in touch with the ladies and all of that stuff through their creative side, you offer art classes for people to take and stuff like that. So tell us more about what you do in Raleigh real quick.
Well, I have an art studio in downtown Raleigh at 201 East Davie Street in the Art Space building. I've been there for over 17 years. I have a working studio and gallery. So I sell my artwork. Also, I'm an art instructor, and I do art instruction through the Cary Art Center, and I also do private lessons. So Cary Art Center will be the primary contact to take reasonably priced art classes. They run usually about 6 weeks with me, and I teach everything from painting to drawing, different mediums. And then I also do private art lessons as well. And you can go to my website, ericmcray.com. That's the last name spelled MCRAY, McRay. And you can take a look at what's scheduled. And if you sign up for my for email list, I think it's our newsletter or whatnot, we send out regular updates.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you for sitting in the hot seat for me today.
Well, it was a hot seat too. Next time I speak to you, I want to talk about pain.
Just strictly pain. I don't want to talk about the ladies, the marriage, anything. Just talk about something easy.
Yeah, I can talk about painting, and it's easy going. But I'm glad to have this experience. Like a child dab my forehead, But I by no means try to say I'm the epitome of perfection when it comes to marriage. Like I said, I got a whole lot to learn. But I think the thing is that I made a commitment to my commitment.
There you go.
And really working through the hard times. And the good times are really, really great. But, there's mountains and there's valleys. And that's just life. And you find that it's getting sweeter and sweeter as time goes on.
All righty. Well, Eric, thank you for hanging out with me today. And
thank you so much.
I had a good time with you. And much success and kisses to the babies.
Thank you.
And happy.
Oh, I love that.
And happy early anniversary.
Oh, thank you so much.
All righty, baby.
And happy Father's Day to all those dads out there.
All righty. Awesome. Talk to you later.
Hey, take care. Bye-bye.